Hi again, Kenneth Latourette, Chapter 16 of A History of Christianity. The chapter heading is Renewed and Continued Progress in the Expansion of Christianity. The century, which was bounded by AD 950 and AD 1050, saw as wide a geographic advance of Christianity as any in the history of the faith until after AD 1500. It witnessed the conversion of those pagans who so recently had been a scourge of Christendom, the Scandinavians, in some of their homelands, Denmark, Norway, and incompletely in Sweden, and in lands beyond the earlier borders of Christendom, in which they had effected settlements, namely Iceland, Greenland, and more notably Kiev, the nucleus of the later Russia. It was the time when many of the Slavs of Central Europe came to the faith, some of those east of the Elbe through the efforts of Otto I, but especially the Czechs and Poles. During that period, the Magyars were converted and Hungary joined the ranks of professedly Christian nations. In Spain, the Christian reconquest of the peninsula made extensive strides. In Sicily, the occupation by Christian Normans spelled the doom of Islam in that highland. In Mesopotamia, an Arab tribe accepted the faith. Thus, those pagans who had threatened the very existence of Christianity were being won, and as nowhere else by other religion, the tide of Islam was being rolled back. In that some 100 years, in Central Asia, the Carates, who were later to be conquered by the Mongols and to be the means of the infiltration of Christianity into the ruling line of that masterful people, adopted the Nestorian form of the faith. The following 2 centuries were to witness a further geographic extension, but nothing as spectacular as this. The conversion of the Scandinavians is his next head. We have noted the fashion in which the Scandinavians, the Northmen, had ravaged much of Europe in the 9th and 10th centuries. We have also seen that their conversion had begun before the year 950. At the instance of Louis the Pious, the Archbishopric of Hamburg had been created as a missionary outpost for that purpose, and Ansgar had been appointed to it, had traveled widely in the Northlands, and had made some converts. After the death of Ansgar, that's in 865, the prospect seemed so unfavorable for winning Scandinavia that late in the 9th century it was suggested that the See of Hamburg-Bremen be discontinued, and it was only the reluctance of the Pope which prevented the step from being taken. However, some of the Northmen who settled in Great Britain and Ireland, and the portion of the Frankish domains which later had its name Normandy from them, accepted baptism. Indeed, before the last quarter of the 10th century, they had provided 3 archbishops for the Church of England. Under their contacts with the peoples whom they were attacking, the inherited religion of the Vikings was disintegrating, and they were adopting both the faith and much of the culture of the conquered. It was in the second half of the 10th century that Christianity began to make rapid headway in the 3 Scandinavian lands, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. In each, conversion was accomplished as a community affair by a kind of mass movement. In each, the eventual triumph of Christianity came through royal initiative. In at least one of these lands, Norway, the kings took advantage of it to extend their authority over recalcitrant nobles. In each, as had been true in other states, the kings insisted upon controlling the church in their respective realms. Each obtained the creation of an archbishopric to head the church in his domains. The actual instruction, baptism, and difficult nurturing of the infant churches was chiefly by missionaries from England. This appears to have been for 2 reasons. In the first place, through the repeated invasions and ultimately through the Danish conquest of England, close contacts had been established between the Scandinavians and that land. In the second place, since the English were a subject people, the Scandinavians had nothing to fear from them politically. Had missionaries been accepted from the Carolingian realms or from the Archiepiscopal See of Hamburg-Bremen, they might have been the means of establishing Carolingian and then German political power in Scandinavia. As we have seen, missionaries were used by the Carolingians to extend their control over much of Germany. It would not have been surprising if a similar sequel had followed had the church been founded in Scandinavia by missionaries from Carolingian and German territories. Since most of the missionaries were from England, the dream of Louis the Pious and Ansgar that the Archbishopric of Bremen-Hamburg would be the radiating center for Christianity in the north was largely, although by no means entirely, frustrated. Denmark and Norway were brought to the Christian faith almost simultaneously, but the process of conversion began in Denmark slightly earlier than in Norway. That was probably to be expected because of the nearer proximity of Denmark to Christendom and the smaller size of the country. Not long before the year 950, a king of Denmark, Harald Bluetooth, was baptized. His son claimed for him that he had made the Danes Christian, and we hear of bishops among that people. In the succeeding reign, that of Sweyn, that's S-W-E-Y-N, Sven the First, that is, the conqueror of the larger part of England, a pagan reaction occurred. It was under Svein's son, Canute, that Denmark finally came into the family of professedly Christian states. From 1019 until his death in 1035, Canute was king in both England and Denmark, and for a time he was also master of Norway. Canute was a Christian, and beginning with 1020, he vigorously supported the Christian cause. He made a pilgrimage to Rome and is said to have commanded that all his subjects learn the Lord's Prayer and go to communion 3 times a year. Many missionaries came from England, but it was not until early in the 12th century that Denmark was removed from the jurisdiction of the Archbishop of Hamburg and was given an archbishopric of its own. Next time we concentrate on Norway. Put in a link to how Augustus, the greatest of the Caesars, prepared the way, or paved the way, literally in some cases, for the growth of Christianity. See you next time.